Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns did something that hasn't been done since the 1970s, which is beat Denver in Denver in a big primetime game. And also on this week's Untitled post-game weekend wrap-up, whatever it's called, show, we're going to go over the Browns' playoff hopes, if there are any. The Browns did something spectacular. They won a game on the road in which they didn't play well. They didn't start well. But you know what they did? They did what they couldn't do in New Orleans. They did what they couldn't do in Oakland. They did what they couldn't do in Pittsburgh early in the year. And you know what that is? The Browns finished a game regardless of the circumstances. All kind of weird crap happened in this game, especially in the last 5 minutes. I mean, you got Vance Joseph taking a field goal down 4 at the 10-yard line on like a 4th and 1. And then you got Greg Williams doing the exact opposite and going for it on 4th and 1. When you're up by 1 point, you can make it a 4-point game, but Greg Williams is Greg Williams. He just went for it. And then on that same play, Greg Williams calls a timeout right before a neutral zone infraction was about to happen. Joe Bitonio had his hands on his heads. I thought that this was going to be another heartbreaking Cleveland Browns moment, but you know what? No, that wasn't happening tonight. Because as the Broncos started driving down the field, they only needed to get into their own territory to be in field goal range, right at the 50. The Cleveland Browns defense said enough. And Jabril Peppers, who had the game of his career, made the play to end the game, sacked Case Keenum right there in the 4th quarter, and the Browns win. Now, some things to break into. Baker Mayfield, hey, I'm his biggest fan as any, but not his greatest game. Wasn't accurate. He started off hot. I mean, he looked magnificent on that first drive, but he kind of waned after that. Think he saw some coverages that he wasn't used to. They did some things on the front end that kind of confused him. Looked a little bit like a rookie, but you know what he did? He made plays when it mattered. He threw for 2 touchdowns, made 2 beautiful plays in the red zone. Unfortunately, the Browns' red zone streak, their red zone touchdown streak, has ended with the Greg Williams 4th and 1. But Baker Mayfield has continued to do what he's done all year, even in a bad game, which is be efficient and dominant in the red zone. He scored in the red zone again. They would have their streak keep going, but they failed the 4th and 1 conversion in the 10-yard line, which obviously ended the streak. Still an amazing streak. I think it was 17 of the last 18 trips to the red zone, the Browns have scored a touchdown. That's crazy. I mean, anybody who sat through Deshaun Kaiser, Brian Hoyer, Josh McCown knows how incredible that statistic is for the young quarterback. Nick Chubb again had another great game. Huge on the ground for the Browns. Had over 100 yards and really carried this offense. And I know people who aren't Browns fans kind of look at the Browns under 500 record and wonder, why are we so damn excited? And the quick answer is, yeah, Baker Mayfield's at quarterback, and that's a dynamic we haven't had in years. But the other thing to throw in there is that we found our running back in Nick Chubb. We got Jarvis Landry, who's going to be a dependable guy. Bernard Perriman, Antonio Callaway, they've looked a lot better lately. We only need one more wide receiver. We're set there. Offensive line, interior, solid. On the tackles, Greg Robinson has played well since he's gotten in. Chris Hubbard has not looked as bad as he has early in the season, but that's an easier fix than quarterback. Then you look on the defensive side of the ball. Defensive line, only got to replace one starter in Trevon Coley. This line's going to be solid. Linebackers, solid. Secondary, we're good at safety. Corners, we could use another one. But that's 2 holes, really, that the Browns have that they just need to fill with depth. This team this year, if everything started right, we fired Hugh Jackson, got the right coach this year, playoff team. I think that's easy to say now, how they're playing now. Baker Mayfield, this is playoff team. But this team next year, I know people are excited about contending in the division and maybe getting a home playoff game. I think we should shoot higher. This team could be special next year. Let me remind you, Browns teams in the 80s that went to 2 AFC championship games in a row. The year before, which was Bernie Kosar's rookie year, the last franchise quarterback they've had since Baker Mayfield. That team went like, what, 7-9 or 500, one of the two records. Browns this year look like they're going to go somewhere in that 7-9, 8-8, a little bit over 500 record. And it looks like they're ready to explode next year. That's exciting. There's not just fringe wild card hope in this team. There is legitimate contender hope in the Browns. And I think that's legitimate. They got to get the head coaching hire right, whether they keep Greg Williams or they hire somebody else. They got to get that hire right. But it looks really good for the Browns. In a great situation. If they spend well in free agency, they draft well this year, Browns could be in a position where all they can do is go up. Also, I want to give a few minutes here to talk about Jabril Peppers. Jabril freaking Peppers, man. Jabril came through huge in this game. 6 tackles, 2 for loss. He had a hurry that should have been a sack, but it got awarded to Jamie Collins because Jabril didn't bring him down. And then he had an interception. All big plays by Jabril Peppers, who has been the source of so much frustration for Browns fans. Sometimes justifiably so, sometimes not. But he showed up, and Jabril Peppers had a signature game. Jabril Peppers. Now look, Jabril, for whatever reason, whether if he went to Michigan and he plays for the Browns, for whatever reason, Jabril gets it bad from the fans. People don't like Jabril. One thing goes wrong on defense, everybody's looking at Jabril. But Jabril has found a way to turn all that negativity into something positive. Now he's making plays for the Browns. And I know that he's done getting harassed at CVS. Great game by Jabril Peppers. Really made the impact that you would expect him to make when he was at Michigan, when the Browns took him at 22. To give Jabril his credit, he's been a solid starter. He doesn't have games like he did Saturday all the time, but he's still a young player. Jabril's been healthy all year. Got to give Jabril credit where it's due on kick and punt returns. But Jabril Peppers been looking really good so far. Now let's get into some wild card news. Unfortunately for the Browns, the Colts, the Titans, everybody they needed to lose. The Steelers, they all won this week. So the Browns are still technically alive. They would need everybody to lose the last 2 weeks. And then for the Colts and Titans, when they played a tie, and the Browns will get the tiebreaker to get in the wild card, they are out of the division because of the win in Pittsburgh. Patriots really let us down. That's kind of a bummer. But what should have Browns fans excited isn't about what happens this year. It's about how much can happen next year. Because this team is going to be for real next year. Playoff contenders at least. That's the expectation next year, is the playoffs. We want to make a run. Because I think Baker Mayfield can do it. AFC Championship, I don't think it's out of the reach. So for the Browns fans, try not to get down too much because the playoff hopes are a little bit harder. You still got 2 games this season. Play the Bengals at home, show Hugh Jackson up, sweep somebody in the division for the first time in who knows how long, and then go to Baltimore, sweep another team. What I think would be really great for the Browns and really successful is the Browns finish in the top half of the division this year. They can do it. I think it can happen. I think that'd be a real positive sign. I mean, if you went from 0-16, the bottom of the entire league, first pick, to second place in AFC North in 1 year, that shows a lot of progress. That shows growth. And that's going to attract good free agents to come to Cleveland because they're going to see what's growing here. Now, who's going to be the coach next year? That question remains to be seen. But if you're interested in knowing who the Browns may hire next year, what the options are, please check out my video I made last week about the retread options available for the Browns. And stay tuned, subscribe, so you can watch this video this week, part 2, about who the Browns options are that are new guys, never been head coaches in the NFL. Maybe they're head coaches in college, or maybe they're offensive coordinators right now. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe button and let me know what you think the Browns will do next season in the comment section down below. My name's Quincy Carrier, and this has been the unnamed, untitled, whatever it is, post-game weekend wrap-up show. Thank you very much.